Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 133 of Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. In this episode, we're going to cover a really important topic, and that is hearing protection. If you're new to the podcast, we really enjoy you checking out the show, but this one's really important for so many reasons, and I just want to send a thank you out to a listener, Aaron Hall of Brisbane, Australia, who had submitted this question and talking about long-range shooting and hearing protection, and this is an important one, and so I really appreciate him, taking the time to send in the email and talking about it and having this concern, and it's worth the entire podcast. So I've got a lot of experience both in hearing damage and protection, and the things that we do here, the double and triple down, so no pun intended, it's worth a listen. So thank you for taking the time to join us. Without further ado, here we go. So first, I would like to thank Krieger Barrels. Krieger is the maker of fine-cut rifle barrels and a proud sponsor of the show. They offer a new program called Krieger Direct, where you can log on and order your new barrel and have it in as little as 2 to 3 business days. So in this market, that means a lot. So if you want a barrel, you want the best, and you need it now, stop over to KriegerDirect.com. That's KriegerDirect.com. We'd also like to thank Trigger Tech, proud sponsor of the show and maker of world-class triggers. They are our friends to the north in Canada. They make a safe trigger, single screw adjustment, single stage, 2-stage, all kinds of pull weights, different types of shoes, different colors of shoes. So if you want the best and you would like to upgrade your rifle custom or otherwise, a trigger is a great place to start. So stop over to triggertech.com. That's triggertech.com today. So first, I'd like to, again, give a shout out to Aaron and say thank you so much for a great submitted question. And going back through our archives, actually quite surprised. I know we've talked about safety a lot, but we haven't really dedicated a podcast to hearing protection. So Richard's off today. I'm going to be doing this one on my own, and I want to talk with you about not just the hearing protection part of it, but a lot of facts behind it, a lot of math, and sort of the reasons why we went suppressed and all of these things about, and it was always about saving hearing. So right out of the gate, one of the things about hearing protection is you don't know you're losing it. And if you're a hunter, if you're a shooter, if you're into long-range shooting, if you're into competition shooting, and you're shooting a rifle and you have rifles shooting beside you, this is where over periods of time you will go deaf. What people don't realize, I think, when they get into hearing protection, and like, for example, we get emails all the time from all these molded in hearing protections and these electronic earplugs that you can buy that you can hear people talk and still have quote unquote hearing protection. What a lot of people don't realize is just what decibels really mean and how damaging they are, even in small increments. So before we even get started, let's talk about the levels of decibels that are considered damaging to our hearing. So any noise above 70 dBs over prolonged periods of time will start to damage your hearing. Loud noises above 120 decibels can cause immediate harm to your ears. Immediate harm. To put that in perspective, the average silenced rifle with a suppressor is probably in that 130-ish range is what we see most. The average rifle without a suppressor can be as much as 167 decibels to 175 per shot. Pain in decibels. The threshold of pain is 130 dBs. So suppressors trying to get quote-unquote hearing safe, they're always trying to get down into those lower levels, but pain starts at 130 decibels, or the threshold of pain is 130 dB. So let's keep those two numbers in mind. Prolonged over 70 dB can cause irreversible damage, and immediate damage can occur at 120 decibels. What I think people don't realize when it comes to hearing protection is even though they think they are protecting their ears, the average molded-in earplug, and we see these all the time. Same thing with earmuffs, by the way, has a decibel reduction rating of about 20. Now, those numbers sound, awful when you start talking about gunshots, and we're going from 130 to 140 to 150 to over potentially 170 decibels, right? But here's the danger part about decibels and what a lot of people, take for granted of what the numbers are. And so I want to take some time to go over some of the real world stuff and just, as shooters, unless you want to be that guy at 50, 60 years old sitting around a table trying to read people's lips, or you want to wear hearing aids at 40 and 50 years old, you really should take this super serious, because one thing about hearing, it goes away slowly, but it doesn't come back. They don't heal themselves. You don't get a second chance at this. So as you're young and aggressive and your ears get numb to the noise, the damage continues. And 20 years from now, you'll be watching TV like, what did he say? Yeah, bad, right? So here's one of the amazing facts about decibels. A 1 decibel change, people think that when we go from, let's just say 120 to 121 decibels, they think about it like a stereo knob, that it's just turning up a little bit. Or if we go from, let's just say 10 decibels to 11 decibels, that we think it's just going up a little bit. But here's how decibels really work, and this is sort of the amazing part. A 1 decibel increase changes the yield of sound just over 7%. A 3 decibel increase yields a 100% increase in sound energy and 23% increase in loudness. So 3 decibels is a 100% increase in energy, right? Which is part of what destroys our hearing, as well as a 23% increase in loudness. So when we talk about this and we say, okay, we go up 12 decibels, in the grand scheme of things, going up from 120 to 132 decibels, you don't think that that's a massive jump. So when you go up from 120 to, let's just say 132, 12 dB, right? You are doubling the increase in loudness and quadrupling the energy. And doubling, 12 dBs, doubling the loudness. So when you go from 132 to 144, you've doubled it again. When you go from 144 to 156, you've doubled it again. That not just the energy, the loudness. And so now it's like 8 times or 10 times louder. So every time we double it, it's a doubling effect. So going from 120 to 132, it's twice as loud. Going from 132 to 144, it's 4 times, right? Because it's doubling it again. And going from 144 to 156, doubling it again. Now it's 8 times louder. 8! And so this is where we get really, really in big trouble in a hurry as far as shooters go, is that, number one, the increase in dBs is not just a 121 to 122. It's not a simple ratio for each time you turn it up just a little bit. It's massive. And then the sad part is our hearing protection, right? If you take the average set of earplugs that you buy, like the molded in kind, you go to whatever store, and I'm not picking on any names or brands, the average decibel reduction listed is probably around 20 to 22 decibels. Keep in mind, damage prolonged is 70 dB, and instance 120. So if you're shooting a braked rifle that has 165 dB of sound and you're only reducing it to 140, yeah, you see it here at the school. Years past, it's awful. So I'm going to try to explain, how we address it, some things that we think about, and where the story really comes from, and why we're sort of passionate about this, and how we've changed our business model even over it. So my history is, look, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I shot rim-fired pistols. I've shot rim-fired rifles, at 12, 13 years old, no hearing protection. I was in law enforcement. I did aviation and military MP. I did police and CERT. My whole life has been around things that were really loud and harmful for my hearing. And part of the processes we go through as we get older, especially in the jobs that we're in, is we occasionally have to have physicals, and part of that includes a hearing test. And I remember taking a hearing test, and I couldn't hear anything. And the lady walks in, and she opens the door, and she goes, "Hey, is that thing on? Are you hearing anything?" I'm like, no, I can hear your voice, but no, I haven't heard anything. She goes, "You haven't heard anything at all?" And I was like, "No." And so when the test was over, she was like, "You probably should get hearing aids." I was like, "You got to be kidding me." She goes, "No." She said, all of your lower ranges are pretty good. You're passable, but all of your high-end range is gone. Like, you weren't hearing any of those tones that we were playing at the higher frequencies. So I left there. Number one, I knew what I did. I knew that all the years of shooting was beating on me. And I know that I can't continue on to lose any, right? And so I was like, I am not wearing hearing aids at 52 years old. There's just no way I'm doing it, right? So my goal at that point was to instantly start protecting all of my hearing in every way, shape, or form possible. And, I knew something was wrong. So, we teach a shooting school. We've had the shooting school going on for 15 years. And I would wear earplugs. But at the end of the 3 days, now keep in mind, anything over 70 decibels for a prolonged period of time or anything over 120, instant, right? And so the average set of earplugs, and we use good quality earplugs, by the way, and I will put the link down below. You can go over to Amazon and purchase them if you like. I'll show you the ones that we use. They only have a decibel reduction at max at 33. And what that means is as you're taking them in and out, or if you re-wear them the next day, like I'll tell students here at the school, like, we have earplugs, here, wear them. But I'll tell students, look, put new ones in. Don't reuse them because you got earplugs in, but now they're no longer 33 or 30 or 28. They're now 22. So 33 is the max. That's the best they'll ever be. Shoved the whole way in your ears, right? And then for me, the big one is when people are buying earmuffs, right? So your average earmuffs are 20 dB. That's not even making the average rifle even close to hearing safe. And then let alone if you take 3 to 5 days of shooting like we do here at the school, there are times we'll run classes almost back to back where I'm at the range for 4 or 5 hours a day for 5 of the 7 days of the week with gunfire. And for me, I just couldn't understand when I was younger. So we're talking like 10, 15 years ago. I would finish up a long-range shooting school. I'd be wearing the best earplugs that money could buy, the highest dB rating. And yet I'm laying in bed at night and my ears are just ringing. And I'm like, God, I wore earplugs. Why are my ears ringing? Like permanent tinnitus. And then I started doing some more research on it, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like even though you're wearing earplugs and you've got braked rifles on the line running 167 decibels, even 30 is not helping you. And then that prolonged period just totally destroys your ear. And here's what happens. So you go to matches and you go to these events, it's cumulative. So over time, like as the day wears on, your ears get numb. Like the first couple cracks through the gun startle you, and you're like, wow, that's sort of loud. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the day, it's not bothering you as much, dude. That's your hearing going away. So, as you're prolonged in it, you sort of get numb to the sound as your hearing is getting damaged. So here's how we approached it, and here's what I did instantly, and it cost us a little bit with our business. So. We have clients that have refused to come to our shooting school because of the policies that we put in place. But look, I have to protect my hearing. I'm 51. I'll be 52 next year. And for me, the most important thing is to be able to hear everything around me, hunting and enjoying time with my family and friends. And so instantly, we became a 100% suppressed school, whether you rent one of ours to put on your gun or, all of our school rifles. We invested and, probably close to $10,000 in suppressors instantly. The very next year was policy. Then what I do personally, this is me, and this is a really cool trick that I learned to protect my hearing. I wear earplugs rated at 32 dB, which I'll post down below, but then I actually put a set of earmuffs over top the earplugs, electric. And then I actually turn the earmuffs on high enough so I can hear through the plugs. So I can almost hear normal. Like when people are talking, I have the electric muffs on, I have them turned up a little bit, and I can hear through the earplugs, right? But when a gun fires, I am doubled up. I have earplugs in at 32 dB, and I have ear muffs on at 20 dB. So I am reducing that to about 52 decibels. On top of that, we're shooting suppressed rifles. So the suppressed rifles are, from the way I've read on Thunder Beast Arms, is it gets the dB down below 130, 133. Maybe some people say in the 120s, but I'm taking that down 52 decibels when everything's working at its best. So I double up. Now, when I started working on this and trying to find a way to protect my hearing, I still had to run a long-range shooting school. I had to hear students ask questions. I had to hear somebody fumbling with a bolt or a magazine, struggling to get a magazine out. I had to hear, anything going on around me because of safety, right? I can't just double up and be deaf to the world. So the solution that I came up with was, well, because I'm so prolonged in this environment for so long, for hours and hours and hours and hours, like range officers, like people competing at matches, especially matches where muzzle brakes are dominant, I thought, well, I'll put earplugs in, and then I put my muffs over the earplugs. And then the trick is I could turn the electric muffs up. That way I could hear, all the ambient noises and sounds around me, just like I normally would if I didn't have anything in. I mean, it was amazing. But when somebody cracks a round off, I've got the first line of defense is the 20 dB ear muffs. The second line of defense is the 33 dB earplugs. And the hearing, hasn't deteriorated. I haven't had the ringing in my ears for a really, really, really long time. And at the school, that's how we do it. So take your time and think about your setup. The Hearing Protection Act was sort of them trying to say there's all these great things in shooting, but let's legalize suppressors, right? Let's legalize the ability to get the noise down on the rifles. For kids and young shooters and all these people that putting earplugs in their ears, like I remember when my daughter was like 11 and 10, and I'm struggling trying to get earplugs in her ears, and earmuffs don't fit kids. They don't make great small kid earmuffs. And I'm trying to protect her hearing, right? Well, suppressors do that. And it's a shame that they didn't get that passed through, because getting that first noise off the gun is just absolutely necessary. You're getting that down from the 167 or 174 in some cases, dB, the whole way down to like 130s, right? So you've knocked the biggest chunk of it out, and then you've doubled up your earplugs and your earmuffs, and now you're down to or close to that 70 dB or below it, to where you're not going to suffer long-term exposure damage to your ears. Hunters fall into this as well, and I have a rule here with muzzle brakes on guns that I try to really emphasize with shooters. For those of you that hunt a lot, you probably laugh when I tell this story. You probably relate to it if you've hunted with a muzzle brake on, but I've done this myself as a youngster. I had a muzzle brake on my rifle. I was a 308. Animal came out, couldn't put my earplugs in. I thought, well, it's just one shot, and I shot. Yeah, for those of you that, like me, did that once, you never do that again. And hunters that are going out on a big game elk hunt, that elk walks around the corner, there it is. I always ask the hunters this: if the biggest animal of your life steps out in front of you at point blank range, and you have a muzzle brake on your gun, are you going to put your earplugs in and risk spooking the animal, or are you just going to shoot? And if the answer is you're just going to shoot, do not put a muzzle brake on your rifle. It increases the sound back to the shooter. It redirects it, and it's both its volume and its loudness. So, oh my God, I remember one time a friend of mine telling me that he watched a guy shoot a 308 with this god-for-awful brake on it, damn near dropped the gun, taking an offhand shot, grabbing his ears, because it rang his ears so bad. We have a friend of ours that was a guide out west that said that he had probably lost hearing in his right ear instantly when a hunter pulled up, and he was trying to get his fingers in his ear. He's talking to the hunter, and they were sort of each on different side of the tree, but sort of side by side, and he didn't get a chance to stick his fingers in his ear. The hunter just pulled up and shot, and he said the sound was just awful, that he couldn't hear anything out of his ear for a couple of days, and definitely did permanent damage. I know another hunter that inadvertently shot against a solid rock wall on his one side, like not right next to it, but close enough that the sound bounced off and was redirected back in his ear. and how much he suffered for that. So me, I'm so hooked into suppressors now that I won't even hunt in a state where they're not legal to hunt. I mean, for me, I'm just not interested. I enjoy shooting suppressed. And, I know that even suppressed, I'm still above that 120, 130 dB, potentially damaging my hearing just with one shot. It's like a bank account where you're just constantly taking pennies out. Eventually it just comes to zero. And your hearing is that way, So every time you pull the trigger, suppressed or not, you are making a withdrawal from that account that started at $100. And every time you pull the trigger, you're taking a penny out. You're taking a penny out. You're taking a penny out. You're taking it every time you're out shooting with your buddies, and you don't want to be the guy saying, "Hey, hold on a second." You're taking a penny out. Every time you don't want to put your earmuffs on, like when we're hunting, I actually keep a set of earmuffs with me, and I'll just throw them on real quick, or I'll keep earplugs in my pockets. Like my wife laughs; she's our office manager here. I have earplugs sitting around everywhere all the time because I use them to plug barrels as well. But at home, I'm taking a shower, and you're taking your money out of your right pocket and earplugs out of your left pocket. And she'll find them in my pants pockets and my jacket pockets. I mean, there's just earplugs everywhere, and I keep them with me. I keep extra at the range. I keep extra in my bags. Important, really important stuff to take into consideration. And I will tell you that in the last 10 or 12 years, I haven't done any more damage to my hearing. Now, I'm going to put a link down below to the earmuffs that I use and the earplugs that I use. They're not affiliate links. I don't make any money off of you clicking on them and buying anything. I'm just sharing with you what we use. Now, the earplugs we use are pretty good quality, and you can buy them in quantity. And the earmuffs I use are actually pretty inexpensive. I found them to be just a really good set of earmuffs, electric, simply because they get destroyed so fast. I don't have a really high dollar set because I don't see any decibel increase, maybe a little bit lighter. But I've had my earmuffs stepped in the mud. I've had them out in the rain. I've had them crunched in my bags. I mean, we have several pair of these laying around, sometimes new, ready to go, just because they get destroyed so fast. So a really inexpensive electric set of muffs. And here's the thing, like if I'm hunting suppressed or shooting suppressed, just one or the other gets me down below that 100 dB. So if I'm shooting suppressed and I'm 128 dB or 130 dB, and I put 32 dB reduction earplugs in, I'm well below the 120, which is instant damage. And if I put my muffs on, I'm still below 120, and I'll try to stay a little bit more away from the rifle. So I try to protect every last bit that I have, and just for good reasons. We were talking about the constant withdrawal that we make from our ears. And I know people now that are actually going deaf who have shot their entire lives. And so I don't want to be there. And just doing this simple trick of doubling up and committing yourself to it. And if you don't have a suppressor and you legally can own one, go get one. I say this all the time, that it is the best money I ever wasted in long-range shooting, right? We have all wasted a boatload of money in this industry and spent a lot of money on really cool tools and toys and, the latest, greatest, this and that, just to play around with stuff, right? It's fun. But this just isn't fun, and it's not just cool. It is an absolute necessity that you get a suppressor on your rifle. Whether you hunt, whether you're at match shooting, it matches. I know it's longer, and I know it's a little slower transitioning to you're protecting your hearing. I just don't shoot without them, and I will tell you, if I can motivate you to go out, get one on order. I know that everybody gets upset that you have to wait forever to get it, and there's this big, long waiting list, but go get it on order, get it started, and it'll be your Christmas present for next year. So I'll put the links in down below for you to check out the earmuffs and earplugs we use. We buy them on Amazon. We go through them like crazy, so they're not the big dollar ones you would expect, and they work really well. I mean, they work for what we use them for here. So, Aaron, thank you from Brisbane, Australia. That is really awesome for you to submit the question, and it was a very good one. If you email me your address and something, we can send you out like a nice hat, t-shirt, something special for just saying thank you. It was a great question, and it definitely deserved an entire podcast just to talk about how serious this issue can be and how new shooters should be taking it seriously. So they'll wind up like us at 40 years old being told and testing that you potentially are going to need hearing aids in very near future. So yeah, just keep that in mind. So on to some good stuff. So speaking of listening, we listen to customers very seriously. We take everything that we do in our business very seriously. We love what we do, right? I wouldn't want to do anything else. From the shooting schools to building the rifles, it is just my favorite. But we listen a lot. And one of the things that when we developed our system here is having a system in place that allows us to repeatedly build super high quality components, right? Over and over and over again. No custom one-offs. No rolling the dice every time we decide to turn apart. But that said, though, we still fall into that custom rifle category. And one of the things that we've always listened to the customers is price matters, and it matters a lot. When we invest in rifles and custom rifles, there's a threshold, just like with your hearing protection, that it's just painful. And one of our responsibilities as manufacturers is to try to produce better products and try to come up with ways to produce the better products at a lesser price, and then to deliver that savings on to the customers. Saving a customer $800-900 means a lot. It might mean the difference between them able to buy their scope that they really want, which is an important part of the process, or upgrading their optics, or buying the reloading kit. There's so many things, and everybody has a budget with this. I mean, nobody wants to spend more than they have to. They want to spend and get quality, right? And we listen to this, and we're in a really unique position that, we don't manufacture every part of our rifle. We were very smart in having a lot to do with the processes and the components, which is what we're experts in. But, we never wanted to be a manufacturer of everything. And there are reasons for this. So I just want to share with you what we're working on for 2023. And it's really exciting stuff. So when we originally started the process of teaching gunsmithing school and teaching people how to build our rifles, our entire thought process is let us focus on the things that we're experts in and sell the rifle sort of as a kit, that the customers can build and maintain and change things. And one of the things for me is when you build a custom rifle, especially at this level, is that it's not just a one-trick pony. You can go back and change the different things as wants and needs change. You can change stocks, and you can change the pre-fit barrels that we offer, all this really cool stuff. That's sort of an important part of it. And originally we were going to sell everything except for the stock, and we were going to remove the stock and let the customer purchase that on their own. And that just didn't work. The reason being is the biggest potential failure that we have is all of the stocks that are made out there don't always come in correctly. Like, for example, we had 3 stocks this year alone come in just from one manufacturer that were broken when they got here, that were damaged, that could not be used in the condition that they were setting in. I know we've had at least 3 or 4 come in that were wrong, that were inletted wrong, that had damage in areas that would have affected the rifle. So we immediately put the brakes and pumped the brakes on that, simply because the finished product still has to be and has to work. These rifles still have to shoot. And without us being able to touch and check the stocks and say, this one needs bedded, this one does not, this one's good to go, and then call the customer and say, look, here we go. Everything's good to go. Would you like to bed it? Doesn't really need it. The customer's like, yeah, no. Either way's fine. But we catch them here that we're like, this rifle needs bedded. If it's going to shoot to its full potential, it needs to be bedded. And if not, what happens is the customer suffers the consequences, or what could happen is, the rifle gets put together, the customer purchased the stock, and it's not quite holding to its full potential simply because there's either damage or something wrong when it was inletted. So here's the aha moment. Well, what if I said that, look, if we could teach a customer to simply install the trigger pins, right? We can sell the completed custom rifles without the triggers involved. And we said to the customer, look, if you install the trigger and purchase it yourself, and we'll get you a discount code for Trigger Tech, and you can order it direct from them. But would you be willing to put your own trigger in with 2 pins, which, by the way, takes like 3 minutes, to save yourself $900 and $1,000 on a custom rifle? And we've tested this over the last month or two, and the answer, 100% of every customer we've asked was like, oh my God, yeah. I was like, do you think you could learn to put a trigger in, or 2 trigger pins, and put your trigger in place? And they're like, oh, for $1,000, I will, And, we've all sort of, we're giggling about this, but we were wrong. We made a mistake in thinking that we could master the parts that we build and let the customers order all the other components and finish the build and save them all the potential excise tax and all these things that get added to the completed rifle. So this is what we're talking about eliminating. It's not the stock. We still need to get the stock in. It's the trigger that we could let the customer put in. And it's a very easy component. We know the manufacturers really well. We know the quality. We can already pre-install the pins, so it's just pop the pins out and put it back in. We can do a 2-minute video. And in the end, we can still sell the completed rifle minus the trigger, fully assembled. The customer just has to take the 2 action screws out and put the trigger in and put it back together. And for me, Some people might say, well, that sounds gimmicky. And maybe it does. Our responsibility as manufacturers and our responsibilities as a business is to how do we deliver a higher quality product at a better price? How do we get the highest quality, better than custom? And how can, as a responsibility to the customers, how can we offer that to the customers at a price that they can afford? And I've said this for years, like when we've talked about this in the past, that there are more people to pull up to a custom rifle than pull down from the branded rifles. And there are still going to be those that hang their hat on the most expensive toilet seat, the most expensive car, the most expensive hammer at Lowe's. In the end, these things are still tools. There's some bragging rights to it. A car is still a car, but there's a big difference between a Chevy truck and a Maserati. I get that. But in the custom rifle world, there isn't. When you take custom rifles that are manufactured right now, the quote-unquote custom rifle manufacturers are nothing more than, in my mind, and this is me just being honest, a less efficient major manufacturer. They're more expensive, not because they're better. They're more expensive because they can't produce it in the quantities that everybody else can. And they're geniuses at branding. So they brand, they market, they do a lot with getting other people involved. So like, some of them got their starts from being involved with organizations that had millions of dollars and that they could start branding that product. And they get it. There's great marketers out there that understand this and, capitalizing on the name. And that's fine. I mean, it's just part of business. But we don't want to be just a brand. We want to make sure that we are different but better in every single way. From the development of the ACE system, which is just reinventing how a custom rifle is made. So I always say it like this. Look, if you were to pay me $525 to chamber a rifle, that's what an ACE costs, right? But with that $525, I'll rechamber every barrel for free for the rest of your life. Would that be a good investment? I think it would be. And that's what the ACE is. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's also the best. It's the best chamber that can possibly cut, period. The straightest, truest, the only way to actually build a perfectly straight chamber is to keep it away from the barrel, right? But then we can guarantee it for life. So you buy it once and you reuse it forever, right? You send it back, and when we redo your replacement barrel, we'll take your chamber off your old barrel, put it on your new one, and send it right back, and it's free. It's no charge. We're not charging you again for it. If it gets damaged for any reason, we'll replace it for free. So, I mean, that's what we do. That's part of our business. That's what we're excited. That's what we get up every morning excited to say, look, we're going to change the industry. We're going to flip it on its head on how custom rifles are perceived, how they're made, how they're manufactured. We can do this better. We just need to think about how we do it. We never did it in seek of money. We never did it for branding. We never did it for bragging rights. We never did it for any other reason other than we are shooters that want to shoot better. This is mainly for us. And then it turned into a business. We wanted to build the perfect rifle. So that's the ACE part. But now what's really cool is, as a manufacturer, our responsibility, and I think the entire industry is going to go this way. If you look at all the major manufacturers, they're all driving to the bottom for pricing. They're all competing for the dollar now. None of them are really focused on super high quality. And some talk about innovation this, new design stock, or innovation that, a better trigger, innovation this, a branded suppressor, innovation that's all been played out for like 50 years. I mean, so you have a new stock killer this year. I mean, that's not newsflash worthy, What I think is going to happen is people are going to end up at the custom rifle level is they want a system. They want a system where they can swap out parts, they can rebuild it the way that they want, and they want a system that works. And our job is to sell the rifle as a kit, the 4 parts that we build, the one that we have to control. So we've got the barrels. We do all the work to the barrels. We've got the ACE. We've got the receivers, bad actions. And we get the stock in here and inspect it, make sure everything's right, see if it needs bedded if it's needed, send that off to the customer, let them install their trigger, and maintain it from there. To double down for what's going on for 2023 is our online gunsmithing school. So all the things that you're going to have to know to how to do to build and maintain these rifles and to take care of them the way that they need to be taken care of is going to be a free online video format. No, not traveling here. Now, we still offer for customers to come in and do the custom rifle build assist. They can come in and we'll go through the process hands-on and teach them, right? We've done this for about 2 or 3 years with great success. It's awesome to let people be part of building the rifle. When you have something that you can say you were part of it and you're maintaining it and you're building it, you have control of it. That's why we started building rifles to begin with. We wanted control of the rifle. We wanted to know everything about it, how it all works, how it comes together, comes back apart, and how we replace parts and keep it running. This is important. But I think the obligation from us to customers is to say, look, there's no reason in selling it as a completed rifle. We're not rifle manufacturers. We never will be. We are inventors. We're trailblazers in how we're approaching the rifles and how they're built and maintained in the processes, and teach the customer how to build and maintain the rifle. So we're going to have an entire online gunsmithing school. It's free. You can log on and you can learn all about how we put scopes on, and you can learn all about how we put the triggers in, how we adjust triggers. So when you get your kit, it's going to be assembled rifle minus a trigger. You're going to pull your 2 action screws out. You're going to slide your 2 trigger pids in. You're going to slide your trigger in, and you're going to save $1,000. I mean, that's our responsibility. When we were talking about this for weeks now, and even months, that, look, when we assemble the final part of the rifle, we fall into what's called an excise tax. That is 11% hidden on the back end of the rifle that has to be added and paid, right? And so as you become a manufacturer, this is how it works, and you build over a X amount of number of rifles, that has to be paid. And you're paying it. It's hidden into the rifle. So when you buy a $7,000 rifle completed, there's 11% hidden in there. Well, 11% of $7,000 is nearly $1,000 of nothing more than tax. You're not getting anything for that money. So why should we be collecting it and handing it off to somebody else from the customer and adding it to the cost of our product when we can just simply eliminate one of the components, the trigger, which is something nobody else really can do. So the rest of the manufacturers can't get rid of all of this because they have to sell it at the higher price, and they have to sell it as a completed rifle, and they don't want to do this, but I think that's wrong. I think the market is going this way. This is going to be a components-based market where you're going to buy the core parts and you're going to build and maintain like a Lego system onto the rifle to what you want to use it for. You want to change it to a Magnum, you want to change it to a 223, you want to change the stock. We want you to teach you all of this stuff so you can keep your rifle running yourself and not depend on us. But we have an obligation to you to do it at the very best price that we can, the very best quality at the very best price. That's really what we've been after. And this is the kits that you see online now. So we're really excited for 2023. The response, even just in the last 30 days for the customers that we've talked to on the phone, has just been outstanding. Like I was amazed yesterday just asking the customers, hey, look, if I said to you, look, if you install your trigger and I saved you $1,000, would you learn to put your trigger in your rifle? And they're like, there was never even a hesitation. It was like, oh my God, yeah. And so this is where our business model goes, is that we're going to sell the core components, the barrels, the pre-fit barrels with the aces. We're going to change out aces for customers as their barrels shoot out. We're going to sell receivers. And as a kit, we're going to sell the stocks with it. And that way, that gives us the opportunity to make sure that it's fitted properly, make sure there's no damage in the mate or the fitting of the receiver to the stock, and assemble it and send it out as a completed rifle without the trigger in it. And you pop the trigger pins in and you've got your rifle. You're ready to roll. And then you get to take $1,000 and put it towards something else important, whether it's your reloading kit, whether it's investing into a little bit better optics, whatever you want to use it for. But I'd rather you use it for things that you need it than us charge it and send it away as in the form of a tax, which I just think is a total waste. So if you log on to our website, it's wolfprecision.net. You can see the pricing up there right now. We're really excited about where this is going to go. We just launched a free online gunsmithing school. We have a couple small videos up. They'll be coming up over the next several weeks, starting in a list of priorities. The first one being, of course, installing the trigger pins and then how to clean and maintain and all the things that we do to our rifles here to keep them running, because we have long-range shooting schools all summer long, class upon class upon class with school rifles. So we maintain these things like crazy, and we want to show you how we tear them apart, how we clean them, how we put them back together, how we rebarrel them, all these things that you can do on your own. So we're really excited to share all that with you. We're going to try to get one more podcast out before Christmas, so that should be the next one. Richard will be joining us again. We're going to talk about a first aid class that we just taken. Richard had signed us up for, and I have to say, at first, really tired at the end of a 12-hour day. Really wasn't looking forward to it. I've taken a lot of these classes in law enforcement and military, but once I got there, I was stunned that I've really taken it for granted and forgot a lot of the things that I should know. So I really enjoyed the class. We might invite the instructor on here. We might even offer a wilderness 2-day first aid class here for customers to come and enjoy. I mean, I just learned so much. We'll be posting up a video on that, and the next podcast we'll be talking about that as well. Ought to be a great podcast. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us. You can stop over to our website. It's wolfprecision.net. You can check out our new online long-range shooting school. We'd also like to thank MDT. MDT is a maker of great chassis. We have the new J. Allen on its way. They just released a new ACC Elite, which we're excited to get. There's so many cool things that MDT is doing, so we always want to thank them and being part of our show. You can see more about MDT at mdttac.com, mdttac.com. And with the Oryx chassis, which, by the way, I believe is the best chassis for under $1,000 you can buy. Period. We can offer a complete rifle kit with Krieger barrel for, I think, $29.95. So you can stop there and see more about that at our website. It's wolfprecision.net. And don't forget about our online long-range shooting school. We just posted up some of our training targets, and we're starting into the shooting portions. So you can stop over and see more of that at wolfprecision.net. We'll put a link down below. And then lastly, we're going to put some links down below on the hearing protection that we use, the earmuffs that we buy off of Amazon, as well as the earplugs. You can purchase them. They're not an affiliate link. We don't make any money off of these links. I'm just putting them down there as, a thank you to everybody out there that shoots and listens to the show, that here's what we use and here's how we use them. And hopefully get people saving their hearing and long-term not taking as much away or any more than they have to. So thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join the show. If you know anybody that's in the long-range shooting or someone that would enjoy this podcast, please feel free to share it. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like it, subscribe. You can post a really nice comment. That always goes a long way with helping us being found. We really do appreciate that as well. You can also stop over to Patreon if you'd like to join the team here at Wolf Precision. So for $3 a month, you can join our team here and support the show. We really appreciate that as well. If you want to share your support, you can stop over to Patreon and just look for Wolf Precision. We really appreciate that as well. So thank you so much for everybody taking the time to join us here. My name is Jamie Dotson. I'm your host, and you're listening to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building Podcast.